everybody. Welcome to a deadline stream before the season commences, Gameweek 1. And I am joined by the great Seb. I think this is our second stream together, Seb, but it feels like we've done a million streams together for some reason.
I don't
Um,
know. I don't know if that's a good thing. Be like, we've only done two, but it feels like I'm bored of you already. Well, hi. I'd say thanks for having me, but I chased you at an ungodly time in your part of the world, didn't I? To go, let's go talk and do stuff.
no, I figured I was going to be up anyway. It's like, I think 1:30 here, and pretty tired, but um, I figured I'm going to be up till the deadline, so I wanted to tinker away with you live and see where it takes us. So here we are. How are you?
I am okay, thank you. I am okay. Probably a little more alert than you, but are you staying up for the deadline, or are we having a chat? You going to bed? You stand up for the match?
I don't think I'm going to stay up for the match, but
Oh,
possibly. I mean, tomorrow is Saturday here, so
yeah.
I mean Saturday all around the world. So
That
uh,
is how that works.
yeah. So I think I'm going to stay up, but we'll see. But yeah, let's go to your team first. How are you feeling about your team?
Well, I was gonna say, like, I feel like one of the reasons I'm doing this is so that I stop messing around with it. Just actually take myself away from an hour and can't keep making changes. I don't know if we have anything up on the screen for this, but I
Yep,
can
I
read
have your
you
team up.
through.
Yep.
Oh, amazing! I can read you through it then. So I've got Ward in goal, although Sanchez on the bench. If Ward doesn't play, if Everton plays, whatever, Sanchez will come in. Yeah, the Ward and Iverson combination is tempting, but Leicester aren't actually that great. And I have zero point 0.5 in the bank, so I don't know if I need to save myself more money. Before the Leicester goalkeeper news, I would have been happy to play Sanchez at United anyway. So if he comes in, fine, whatever. The back line's probably pretty straightforward for most people. Trent, James, Cancelo, as I'm sure almost everyone has. And then I have Walker. Going forward, he's probably a bit of an X-Men's risk, but the first few weeks, which is when I need him, I think he's pretty nailed. They basically have 4 or 5 fit defenders, so I think he's okay. Salah, captain, obviously, because this is FPL and that's how you play. Then I have Luis Diaz, so I went for him instead of Robertson, I guess, for 3 Liverpool. Martinelli and Bailey is starting. Then I have Haaland, vice captain, instead of Kane. That's as close as you could ask for, to be honest. I have Haaland because that's where the coin stopped flipping, I guess.
Mm.
And Jesus. And then making up the rest of the bench, I have Archer, just cheap forward, who I think might get some minutes off the bench of a Villa, could get some points here and there with 5 subs. Andreas, like most people do. And then Gabriel from Arsenal, who is benched because I'm starting Bailey. But that's the thing I keep fiddling around with. Bailey, Gabriel, Walker. I don't know which one to start. And then I have
Mm.
0.5 in the bank. So rip it apart. Tell me why it's awful.
No, I think it's a great team, but I have a couple of questions here. I actually love the Bailey pick. I'm very keen on owning him for the first 2 game weeks. The Bournemouth fixture is perfect for someone, red hot in the preseason, talked about by Stevie G. It's like one of those fun picks you just have to go for, right? I feel more confident about Bailey than Neto personally. But I like how you have a backup plan just in case it doesn't go wrong. You have a decent bench member and not decent, but a great bench member in Gabriel, to fall back on just in case like the first 2 game weeks go wrong and he gets dropped from the starting 11. Um,
Yeah, I think so. For me, I
uh-huh.
really like this idea of 5-3-2/4-4-2.
Yep.
And I guess my team is actually a 5-3-2 if you start the Arsenal defender. Well, reason I'm starting Bailey here is like if he's going to be my first bench option, I'm going to start him at Bournemouth. When
For
Gerard said he's
sure.
probably going to start, he's had an all right preseason. He genuinely could be dropped in game week 2 and that's it. He never
Yep,
plays for me
yep.
again. But I only need him for the bench. I've got zero point 0.5, so he can become Neto, or he can go down. I know I can get Spurs wing backs in when they become an option, but we may cover that in a minute. For me, though, it's just if I'm not playing against Bournemouth, why do I even own him? Why wouldn't I just get Reed or something instead?
Yeah. No, I like it. I like Bailey, but it is tough benching Gabriel. Granted, it is home at Crystal Palace, and Crystal Palace generally are better at home. So it's not going to be easy clean sheet. So I think you made the right decision benching Gabriel for Bailey. I like that. I agree with the Holland move. I love Kane. I want Kane. I want Son. I want to attack that Southampton fixture, but just put yourself in game week 2. Just imagine yourself next week. in front of game week 2 when everybody's going to be, captaining Haaland. Like, what are you going to do with Kane? That's what you're doing right now is Kane versus Haaland +4, and essentially it could be more than that because you might be having to, tinker away and not tinker, but fiddle with other issues in your team and God, it is late here. So, so I like how you have Haaland in there. If you're going to go for Kane, if you're going to go for Son, I get it, but I think you should stay with them. You should stick with them, and see how you go until wild card. One question I have for you, Seb, is that you have the Ward and Sanchez combo. I know this is a
Yeah.
pretty popular combination because they rotate well, but rotating keepers is a dangerous game, don't you say?
Yeah, I mean, normally, this season's different because normally I'm like a massive advocate of a cheap bench. I'm a massive advocate of only one goalkeeper and then a 4.0. Well, I guess I do have a 4.0 and a 4.5, so that's fine. Realistically, I wanted, unless I went with a different team structure, so like Edison or something, I wanted Sanchez. I have Ward because we just have a 4.0 playing option. Sanchez has Man United, Ward has Brentford, I think. So why wouldn't I start him? If he doesn't play, if Everson comes in, fine, Sanchez plays, and maybe I never rotate ever again. Sure, I
Yeah.
could. If the option's there, I will do it. But my strategy here isn't rotation. My strategy is Sanchez and 4.0. It just so happens that the 4.0 could come in and steal points from me when I get it wrong.
Yeah, I like it. Easy to
Uh,
say. Easy to
Sonado,
say.
Andy, I just wanted to say we've got I think a super chat in there. I don't know
Ah,
if those are something we usually have on, so I would say maybe don't do any more than people because I don't want you not to get them answered. But seeing as one is in there, I thought we'd answer it.
for sure.
So 5 million defender, Trippier, Walker, Dean, or Cash. Who would you go for?
Dean or Cash. I think Trippier. But
Ah,
I think Walker would be a close number 2. But you have Walker in your team, Seb. I'm a little
yeah.
worried about Walker. I read a quote where he might be rotation risk. So are you concerned about that at all?
Yeah, so the thing for me with this team is I'm definitely wildcarding by like 8 or 9, give or take. There's a bit of a fixture shift, although all our teams are top 6, so fixture shifts mean less this year.
Yeah.
But I think with things like Bailey, with Gabriel, not specifically him, but the fact that I say don't have Saka or whatever, and with Walker, the team doesn't need to be good for any longer than like say 3 weeks. I think with because Stones wasn't fit for the Community Shield, was he? Laporte is still out for a few weeks. They haven't signed a left back. I'm 70-80% confident that Walker starts, probably be Diaz, Ake, and Cancelo. Maybe Stones comes in, but I think Walker gets right back. If he doesn't, Gabriel comes in for me, so fine. He probably doesn't come off the bench. Pep's kind of moved more towards starting and resting versus rotating in match itself. So I expect that to continue.
Yeah.
And then by the time that Laporte and everyone is fit, well, I have 3 City. I have an 8 million mid in Luis Diaz, and I quite like the idea of Foden at some point. I had to restrain myself from starting with him because we don't know, but I do want him in a bit. And then I think Luis Diaz, when Jota's back fit, I think he becomes an issue. So what I'm probably doing is doing, say, Walker to one of the Spurs wing backs, which I don't have because I'm uncertain on their minutes to start with. Diaz to, say, Foden or Mount, and something else that I've forgotten, or maybe Saka, I guess. And therefore I solve my problem. So realistically, I only need 3 weeks or so here.
Yeah.
Now, of course, what will happen is Salah will get injured and this all goes out the window. But I think it makes sense for me,
Yeah, no. And also the fact that you're saying if it's a 3-week thing, then yeah, Dean, Cash, they come into the fold as well. Great first 3 fixtures. And I just want to say something about Trippier is do not be afraid of those City and Liverpool games because, yeah, clean sheet's unlikely, but set pieces are hard to predict. And it's one of those things where when you have one of the best set piece takers in the league and in your team, and Newcastle for me is a top 8 team now. So I think they can put up a game against anybody. I do believe that there's a chance for a clean sheet even in those games. So I just like the prospect of owning Trippier. He's firmly in my radar for this season.
Yeah, that's fair. I've kind of ignored Trippier because Newcastle's defense improved massively under Eddie Howe. I think the underlying numbers didn't improve as much. So maybe they got a bit lucky, but they were still good. Like they were still top half. With Trippier, I think he scored 2 great free kicks last year, and that was that. Like you said yourself, it's hard to predict, it's hard to repeat. That goes both ways. It could happen in any match against anyone, so you just want to get involved in that. But also, maybe I can't say, oh, they've got a nice 3 fixtures coming up, therefore I'm gonna, say like someone who gets more of their numbers from open play, where I'd go, okay, cool, I want to make sure I have them for that. With set pieces, maybe I can target it a little less. So I'm a little colder on Trippier. But that being said, well, if you need a 5 million defender and you don't fancy my idea on Walker, yeah, he's up there. Fair enough.
No, fair, fair, fair. I think what we should do, Seb, is get through my team quick, and then
Mm,
we can answer questions and sort of that could help us as well. What do you think?
sounds great. Yeah, we spent far too much time on my pile of nonsense.
No, 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 not at all. But overall, it's a great team.
I mean, it's probably about 9-11, the same as everyone else, isn't it? Like
Just
everyone's got the same 12 on, and then it's just those last 3 spots we're fighting over.
no, as I was saying that, I was just like, there's no energy in it. So no, it's a great team.
Well, let's see yours then.
Yeah, it's a very boring team, very template team. I think I gave up on Perisic after that. I guess in the know saying he's unlikely to start. I mean, he could be wrong, right? I don't even know who it is. No offense, but seems like a legitimate, sourceable credit, I guess, on Twitter. So the news, for those who don't know, there's sort of an in the know saying that Perisic is unlikely to start. Prior to this team, I had Perisic instead of Diaz, and instead of Diaz, so what did I do? I believe I had instead of Longstaff, I had Aronson because I really, really like the look of Leeds right now, and I'm bummed that I can't get to Bamford or Arison or even Rodrigo. I won't go there, but we should keep tabs on this Aronson kid. I think he was excellent. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. But yeah, this is my team: 5-3-2, Ramsdale in goal. Very confident about Ramsdale. I think 4 or 5 clean sheets in the first 7. Please do not record this statement. And then I went for Robbo over Diaz. I think Robbo has given me great memories last season, and I do think he's going to do well initially. Cancelo, Diaz, double up, Man City. Like double ups are not the best at times, but you want to assess your defenders individually and your double ups individually. And when you have 2 City defenders, you go into every game with sort of a boost of confidence. This first game is going to be tough. I think West Ham is not easy away, but you just never know. The City guys just control the game, control the ball, possess it, and as long as they can kind of keep Bowen quiet, who knows? Maybe a clean sheet there. Yeah, and then the rest is pretty straightforward with zero point 0.5 in the bank just in case things go wrong and I have to make moves. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I like it. Again, lots of similarities there, so it's hard to pull it apart without putting my own apart, which may be fair, of course. You mentioned Leeds, so I'm interested to know, is that a fixtures thing? Do you like what you see from Marsh? Have you just spoken to me too much? What's your feelings on Leeds?
I just watched the last preseason game and got hyped. That's all it is.
Fair. Worth noting that Cagliari just got relegated and were not great, but I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah.
I think for me on Leeds, I think our defense is an easy avoid for now. I know Melia maybe for some people, but Sanchez, even Raya is probably a better pick. Then the defenders, Christensen could be great, but 5.0, he feels 0.5 too much for someone who will concede goals. Midfielders, Rodrigo, Aronson, and Harrison are probably your choices. I think Rodrigo is attractive at first, but will probably lose his place or at least be rotated a lot when James and Sinisterra are back. James is suspended, Sinisterra is injured. I think our first choice team, call it 4-2-3-1. I thought it would be 4-2-2, but I think it might be 4-2-3-1. Although those are very, very close when we press and depending on the shape we choose. I think it'll be Bamford up front, almost certainly, who is someone we could think about here. He doesn't, maybe because of Jesus, he doesn't fit our teams, but someone will have him and someone will do well. Then behind him, I think in 10 will be Aronson. Or if it's the 2-2 with the forward, it'll be, say, Gelhard maybe dropping in, which would mean Aronson goes right. In the 4-2-3-1, then I think that would be Rodrigo right to start with, and Harrison left, or the other way around. But when Sinisterra and James come back, I think Sinisterra is certainly a start. I think Harrison keeps his spot, but it's probably Rodrigo who drops away. Marsh does rotate more than Bielsa did, though. So there's every chance that 5 or 6 players for 4 spots works anyway. They all get a bit of time.
Wait, are you a Leeds fan, Seb?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Did you not?
I did not know that.
Oh,
I was just like,
I hide it well.
where did this guy come up with all this knowledge?
I
That's
just steal
awesome.
it from smarter people than me on Twitter. But yeah, no, I'm a Leeds fan. It probably caused me trouble. Was it 2 seasons ago when we first got promoted?
Mm.
Um, I I was so determined not to be biased towards my own team that I like biased myself against my own team because like Dallas was amazing. Obviously, Rafinha came in, Bamford 200 points, 199 points, whatever it was. I didn't own any of our players until like the second half of the season, if not later, and I never owned Dallas once. And yeah, so like I think I finished like 130k. It was a disaster because I was so determined not to be like, I've never had Leeds in the Premier League when I've played FPL. I can't be biased towards us, that I was just massively biased against us.
Yeah. Dallas was one of my favorite FPL picks of all time. So yeah, great player. Unfortunate he was categorized as a midfield last season, but I did
Yeah.
not know you were a Leeds fan. That's awesome. I'm gonna go to you whenever I have Leeds questions, and I'm sure I will because they look
Oh,
real
yeah.
sharp at that last preseason game.
Yeah,
But
please. I mean, I'd love us to be an option in FPL, if just because it makes me relevant. That's all, really. It makes me useful.
a big question mark in my team is no Kane, no Son. And it pains me that I don't have Sun. I tried everything, but it just is not whatever optimal means. It just didn't work out. Like the planning didn't work out, and I do want to have some sort of plan just in case things go wrong. But going with Sun would talk to me, Seb. What should I do?
I mean, firstly, I kind of respect that you haven't got Son, given, like, for want of a better word, a lot of your sort of FPL like presence has obviously been,
My branding.
your yeah. Well, I mean, I guess, but I wouldn't quite call it branding because it's not a marketing ploy. You just genuinely love Son, and fair
Yeah,
enough.
that's
He's
it.
a
Yeah.
brilliant footballer. But I kind of respect that you've looked at your team and gone, you know what, it doesn't work, and so I'll put that aside because that's how you play FPL. Like, it's football, it's a game, whatever. If you want to just pick your favorite players, go for it. Obviously, though, if you're coming on YouTube and talking about it, you probably have to try and get a good rank.
Mm.
And I think you have to try and put some of your favoritisms aside for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm with you. Like, for me, it would be Kane, just because I had Son last year and I got a lot of points, and I think I got lucky from him. There's not much in it. There's a zero point 0.5 difference, and there are maybe more midfield options. So I possibly prefer Kane,
Mm.
but again, flip a coin. But then for me, it's Haaland, simply because when you look at it, captaincy is the big thing here, and it's why I don't like a premium. If you're splitting your captain between three premiums, you dilute its value too much. So I think two is the way to go. And we know we have Salah, so I need a captain either when Salah isn't an option, or when the other player just has such a good fixture. For example, Bournemouth in Gameweek 2, that I want them. So I've started with Haaland. I actually think Kane might do better than Haaland over the first 4 or 5, but I think I would want to do Kane to Haaland in Game Week 2. And then I want to be spending transfers on those things I mentioned, like, the Diaz, the Walker situation, Spurs wingbacks even.
Yep.
So the reason I've got Haaland is simply because I think I've got 0.5 in the bank. I'm trying not to spend 2-3 transfers on Haaland, Kane, Hokey Kokey.
Yep.
I just want to get Haaland, captain him in Game Week 2, and then be happy enough that there's so little EV in it, right? They're both world-class strikers. They both play for brilliant attacks, that I can use my transfers and use my potential EV elsewhere instead.
Mm.
I don't think potential as EV is a thing. I made that up, but you know what I mean.
Yep. Yeah, I know. No, well put there. So let's go to the questions. We have a lot of questions about city assets, and just off the bat, I want to direct you guys to Jump the Wave Emma on Twitter, who's fantastic. And last season, I relied on her a lot because what she does is kind of bring a bunch of Man City experts and then kind of like have a percentage of how likely this player is going to start this game week. So for game week 1, I've got the United one for some reason. So for game week 1, Man City, this is just predictions, guys. So it could be wrong, but Foden is at 76% likelihood to start. Haaland is at 100% likelihood to start. Grealish is at 27% likelihood to start. Mahrez is at 91% likelihood to start. Walker 100%, Diaz 100%, Cancelo 100%, Ederson 100%, and KDB 100%. So
What was Walker again? Sorry.
Walker is 100%. Yeah.
Oh, I literally just changed my team and put Gabriel back in. I don't know.
Yeah. It's a tough one. It's like I like this. I like this prediction because what we saw in the Community Shield was Foden come in the second half and basically be the best player for City. I think KDB was a little off. Like KDB, like something was missing, right? Whether it was his finishing or final touch, final pass, something was. He just needs to get back in form. Maybe it starts this game week. But I thought Foden in the Community Shield second half was fantastic. And what we saw was Grealish and Mahrez really struggle. I believe the reason why Grealish is only at 27% to start is because Foden likely goes to the left and lets Mahrez. Makes sense, right? City like to play inverted forwards, and their wingbacks like to bomb up. So Foden can do everything. So I do think that Grealish gets benched this game. Unfortunately, the issue is you go for someone like Foden or Mahrez or Grealish this game week, you have the same dilemma next game week. You have the same dilemma game week 3, same dilemma game week 4. So you just trust that these potential 8-7 million City midfielders will have a occasional bench, will have the occasional 30-minute cameo, but their ability to just go crazy in one game is so high that you kind of stick with them. That's my thinking when it comes to these players because you really cannot predict the starting likelihood every game week.
Yeah, I think that's pretty astute. I mean, you're probably going to get 25 starts, give or take, maybe out of your midfielder, and that's okay. Like we know that Foden could go and get 200 points in only that amount of time. That's fine. And we have maybe some other options in our team, bench-wise and whatnot this year. As mentioned, with the 5 subs, we'll have to see how Pep gets on. But something that actually could help is that he seemed in the last 2 seasons less likely to rotate players in-game in terms of rest. So say start, play 60, then come off and someone else plays 30. And instead give them 90 and give someone an entire day off. We've seen it with like Gundogan and Bernardo have done that a few times, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, so with 5 subs might change that, but he didn't even always use his 3 subs. So I think, ironically, out of all the managers, Pep could actually be kind to us from an FPL sense there, because if someone doesn't start, you probably want 0 minutes so that your Neto or your Bailey or whoever comes off the bench. Then I think the thing, and I'll give Fantasy Football Scout Luke a shout out here, along with Jump the Waves. He's part of that. He makes some great City predictions. And the logic behind his predictions are lovely too. I think he took it on a couple of years ago or a year ago, just to combat that whole Pep roulette thing. And he said, actually, we can predict it. We think we can. Pep very much has a few favorites and he has a style of playing. And of course, he moderates things based on the opposition. But he also very much goes with the form player, the player that is doing a good job. I think we've seen that with Grealish and we've seen it with Foden taking over. And then, as you mentioned very astutely, he likes width on either side. Whether that comes from a fullback or from a winger, he tends to want, say, for example, a left footer on the left, a right footer on the right, at least on one position, whether that's fullback or winger.
Yep.
So if they don't have a left back, if they're starting Cancelo at left back, who, as you say, will invert and come inside, and Walker, I hope for my team on the right, that probably does mean Foden on the left. Now, Grealish did start the Community Shield because that's where the form thing comes in. He'd been good in pre-season, but I think, unfortunately, he was bad in the Community Shield. Foden was great, as you said. So I think there's a very good chance we see Cancelo left back, Foden on the left, maybe Mahrez right, although he wasn't too special either, but with Walker, that'll have an outside and an inside. And so I think that's how they line up. The only reason I don't have Foden myself really is I do like Diaz to start, and I probably end up doing Diaz to Foden in a couple of weeks when we get that little bit of confirmation, and I'll lose Walker for, say, Perisic or Doherty.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing about losing Perisic now is that he could have become a differential early on because I guarantee you at some point we're all going to own him. And that could be game week 3. And maybe we won't. Maybe we won't all own him initially. But it's like FPL is one of those things where now there are so many users, so many players, and everybody knows everything. So you really need to identify those 1 or 2 amazing differentials. And sort of Perisic was my go-to. And it's really unfortunate that I'm not willing enough to take the chance because of the Indino. But I do agree with you. I think that Foden starts on the left. But Seb, as we know, Pep is unreliable, and we could easily see Grealish start at 27%. So, pick your poison, basically.
I'm looking for Alvarez starting against Bournemouth and Haaland getting the rest. That'll be hilarious, won't it?
That'd be hilarious. Yep. Yeah, guys, 30 minutes to go. 900 viewers, so it's amazing. Thank you so much for
you.
joining us. Yes, we are not at Fest because I'm in Korea in Seoul, which is about 5,000 kilometers away. So I don't know, maybe 10,000. So I can't take the train there, unfortunately. Seb, how come you're not there?
Oh, my excuse isn't as good, but we have a 10-month-old who
Oh, okay, fair.
needs keeping alive. I hear apparently they don't do that themselves. Who knew?
Yep, yep.
But yeah, so no, not this time. But hopefully at some point, I've not been to one yet, and I really, really would like to.
Yeah.
It looks good fun. Although everyone, so presumably people, on the stream with us and me and you, here's my thinking. Everyone going to Fest tonight, they're probably there now. They're pre-drinking. They're having fun. They're having a lovely time. They're being convinced by a drunk Gianni, a drunk Mark, to go without Salah, to pick Perisic. They won't have heard the news. With a minute or two to go, they'll have a few shots. They'll change their team on their phone. It won't save. To me, this sounds like an edge. All of us not going to Fest. I think we're going to start better. We're going to be clear-minded and have all the information.
Yeah, yeah, it is, guys. It is 2 a.m. here. I'm nuts. I'm a crazy man, but this is what FPL does to you. And I've had the longest day at work, and Seb asked me to
Oh,
join, and I couldn't resist. It was just something I had to do because I do like enjoy streaming with you, Seb. Um,
oh man, I appreciate it so much. I was, what was it? Was it last night when I was going around going to the various scout people, like, should we do a deadline stream? Should we do a deadline stream? And it was purely selfish. It's because I wanted to come on and talk and stop drinking with my team. But thank you so much for joining me and
no, no, no,
hosting as well, I
absolutely.
should say.
And I just got a photo from Fest, and this is our boy Ted and the great Pros. So
Ah,
they say
team.
hi if you guys are watching.
Lovely.
Lovely, lovely.
Lovely.
Okay,
So, okay, I've got a question for you then.
go ahead.
With everyone having relatively similar teams, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If anything, it's sensible. Who do you think might come in and shake this up, either in the next couple of weeks or immediately? For example, I suggested maybe Bamford, because I like that because it would both change people's structures and also it's a player that not many people have. He's got
Yeah.
good fixtures. He's on number 9, probably has penalties. If we do well, he probably does well. Who do you think else might come in and really mix up this template that we've all got going?
I mean, on Leeds, I did pick Bamford as well as Aronson. I really like the look of Aronson. I think he's going to be a great player. Yeah, let me give. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it that way.
Is there a team we're overlooking maybe? So, I mean, we mentioned Trippier, Newcastle. If we think they'll come in flying, Bruno Guimaraes did well at the end of last season. West Ham started last season well. We don't see them around very much.
Mhm.
Okay. I wonder if, like, for me as well, the 8 million midfield slot feels important to me. I mentioned I wanted that in my team. I guess maybe a structural change there where, say, Foden doesn't start, Luis Diaz, for reasons, doesn't start, say, Mount and Chelsea aren't very good.
Mhm.
That would be an interesting one where maybe cheap players come in. But I think what would be more interesting is the other way around, say Saka fires, Foden fires, Kulusevski, we've not mentioned him. If they all fire, we could almost be looking at a team with two 8 million mids at some point. People going 4-4-2, 4-5-1 even.
Yeah, the problem with my draft is there's no simple way to get to an 8 million draft. So I just have to stick with Robbo. That's just my plan. And Diaz to Perisic is game week 3 locked for me. So that's kind of why I'm ignoring the 8 million bracket. And I do believe that Martinelli proves to be an 8 million player. And I read a tweet from Bullet. I can't remember his actual handle, but I think it's like FPL Bullet or something. He was saying that Perisic is basically an 8 million mid priced at 5.5 with defensive clean sheets that plays for a top 4 team. So, I get your idea of an 8 million, the importance of an 8 million, because yeah, those guys are one of those like, just those iffy kind of like not premium, but not a 5.5 million, 6.0 million, but kind of expensive. So it's tough. It's tough to fit into, I think, unless you really restructure your team. I'm very happy with Martinelli. I think Martinelli for 2 million less than Saka is just as good, especially with ESR being unfit. Granted, I do see Nketiah come in for Martinelli at times, but I think he's gonna hopefully do really well today, even. So we'll see. But anyways, let's get to the question, Seb. And while you do the first question, I'm gonna be right back and fill up my cup with a little bit more beer.
No problem. Good times. Friday night, 2 a.m., keeping yourself alive. Cool. We've had a bunch of questions in the chat then, some of which I think I've tried to reply to a little bit as we've gone. But Go for it. Someone throw some questions at us, and I will answer one of them. Whatever comes up first. And I'm aware you're a bit behind me, so I'm just going to keep talking, which, is something I'm all right at, hopefully. Give us a question. Give us a question. What's on your mind? Martinelli and Jesus, would you get Saka or Mount? So if you've got Martinelli and Jesus in your team, would you get Saka or Mount? I guess the question there is kind of this old one of like, should I get triple players from a single team? Because what happens if they blank, or what happens if they do badly? I am a strong believer that they're all independent decisions. So while, of course, there is a tiny, tiny bit of like marginal risk management, say a game is called off, or yes, if they lose, all of your players might blank, but all your players might blank anyway. Just because Arsenal lose doesn't mean Man City have to win. They're independent things. So if you have an 8 million midfield slot, for example, but you already have, let's say, Ramsdale and Jesus, that doesn't change how good Saka is. Saka is either the best option or he's not. So I think you pick based on that. So to answer that question, you go with the one you prefer. And I think that's what that question is getting at. I would probably go for Saka in the example you gave, I think. Do you have any thoughts on that if you caught that question, Andy?
No, I didn't catch it. What was the question?
So it was between, I have to top of my head, it was, you've already got Jesus and Martinelli. So do you go with Saka or Mount? For me, I feel like that question is the old, do I triple up on a team?
Oh, got you.
And so my answer is, yeah, triple up. If you think they're the best options, they're the best options. Doesn't matter if you have 1, 2, or 3 of them. Do you have any feeling on that?
Yeah. I mean, individually, if you compare Saka to Mount, I'm definitely going Saka all day. So, again, we mentioned at the beginning of the stream, I have Diaz and Cancelo. When you double up or triple up even, try to assess them as individual assets. Who are you? What's your combination versus combination? Who are you comparing this player to this player? So I do agree. I like Saka over Mount personally, but Mount is a consistent points guy, and he might not return one game, but he'll get you a consistent point. But the issue with Mount is he doesn't really haul, so you need to keep him for long term. I think it's hard to predict when he's going to return. I think he returns maybe twice every 4 games, sort of something like that. Yeah. I don't know if I'm making sense here.
Yeah. No, I'm a big fan of Mount. There's every chance he takes my Diaz slot at some point. But to start with, I'm content without. I think Diaz is better. I think Saka is better. And I think that also maybe suggested another question, which has come up a few times in the chat here about, say, coverage. Or, for example, I've got Martinelli. Can he cover Saka? So for me, coverage is a lie, offensively. Martinelli cannot cover Saka. That's not how that works. But in defense, so you mentioned Man City there, it maybe applies a bit more there. So look, Diaz isn't going to cover Cancelo's attacking output, but if they both keep a clean sheet, they both keep a clean sheet. Do you have any feelings on that idea of coverage? How do you approach that, or is it something you ignore as well?
I think coverage is a tricky one. I think it's very sometimes I look at a certain player being coverage, but at the same time, coverage is such a wild description because, for example, does Diaz cover Cancelo? Maybe in some ways you could think that he does because he is a City asset, but at the same time, Cancelo is such a different type of player. So, I think it's very based on certain situations.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think for me, it's like the offense versus defense, because if Man City keep a clean sheet, assuming no one's got sent off or something, they all at least get those clean sheet points. Whereas if Man City score 5 goals, well, there's no guarantee that your midfielder scores the same as my midfielder or what have you.
Yeah.
Speaking of midfielders, Man United. Neither of us have any Man United players.
Okay.
Sancho, I kind of hope Sancho's actually good this season, despite being a Leeds fan. I'm a big Jadon Sancho fan. Rashford's very cheap. There's Martial, especially if Ronaldo leaves. Diego Dallo, maybe.
Yep.
Any of them take your fancy now or in the future?
Well, I think a way to watch. You don't need to jump on him now. I think Sancho's ill from what I read. I know Martial had a hamstring issue. So Cristiano's likely to start. So if you're going to go for someone, I think it's Rashford. But yeah, I don't know. I like Ten Hag. I think they're going to do well. But it's a wait and watch. There's so many other assets you can go for. Why take the risk? Just give it like 1 or 2 weeks, and then maybe you can jump on them. Thoughts on Aronson? I love Aronson. I think he was in my team before Perisic got injured. Bruno Guimaraes or Pulisic, definitely. I can't believe I'm saying this, Bruno, because Pulisic is rotation risk.
I mean, would I argue neither? Because Bruno G is 6 million, isn't he? So maybe you already have Martinelli, but even then, I think Neto, Bailey might be there for you, and then you bench them. I feel like the structure with Bruno G and Martinelli doesn't make sense to me, and Bruno G instead of Martinelli doesn't make sense. And obviously, I don't fancy Pulisic based on that answer. So yeah.
Okay. Ramsdale or Ederson? This is a good one. I want to hear you first.
Oh, I mean, if all else is equal, Edison by a mile.
Ooh,
Like
really?
he'll keep so many more clean sheets. He's like the nailed part of the City defense. You can get an Arsenal defender as well if you want. Yes, you can get City defenders, but it's a very safe way into that defense. And with an early wild card and some good fixtures, you can then get out of it and get a cheap goalkeeper who's doing well if you like. But Ramsdale is 0.5 cheaper, and that means a lot. It may actually bring you more EV to upgrade your defense elsewhere and go Ramsdale. So in the teams I've built, I have neither, but I had Ramsdale more often than I had Edison. All else being equal, Edison. What about you?
Yeah, I kind of disagree. I think Ramsdale
Oh,
is I think Ramsdale can match Ederson, JK, and not match, maybe come close to matching Ederson because look, West Ham away first game, Bournemouth sure home, clean sheet. Newcastle away, you think that's easy? I don't think so. Crystal Palace at home, okay, fine. Not to, okay, maybe my argument's getting weaker as I say this.
I think City have one
Um,
hard game a season. To be honest, I mean
okay,
that's slight hyperbole. But when we're saying like oh Newcastle away, that's not easy. Like I guess it's not, but
mm,
it's Man City.
fine,
Every game for them is easy, but
fine.
basically Liverpool and Chelsea when they fancy it. Oh,
But
and
if
Spurs actually didn't Spurs beat them twice last year?
no, it's fair. But if you want to join the fun, come Team Ramsdale, guys, because I'm on it.
So basically, the answer is if you want to be like cool and fun, get Ramsdale. If you want to be boring, get Edison. That's fair enough.
But also
That's
Ederson
fair.
has no bonus points in his game. So
That's true.
basically, without a clean sheet, you're getting a what one or 2 pointers. So
Yeah.
I guess Ramsdale's better. They're both equally good. Mm.
You know what might come into contention actually? It's the triple up. If you've got Ramsdale, say Martinelli and Jesus, you're blocking Saka, unless you make two transfers, it's easy enough, but you are blocking Saka in one transfer. Likewise, let's say you have Edison, Cancelo, and Haaland, you aren't getting Foden without losing one of them. Now, that's entirely possible to do. It's not hard to make two transfers, but maybe that's a thing to consider.
Yeah, but I disagree with that because not just for the sake of disagreeing, but because
Oh, go for it.
Seb, I think that's just so hard to predict. It's that's a very common argument in my head as well because I'm like, okay, if I go triple up here, I'm not going to be able to get Saka or someone, but there's always different scenarios where you're basically saying that Saka is the only one that pops up later on. Like there's going to be other assets that pop up, and it's very hard to predict like whether you want to save that City spot or you want to save that Liverpool spot, not Liverpool, but Arsenal spot. I just think we're so worried about this game week 1 team, but once this gets going, you forget about game week 1 team within like 3 game weeks. So it's just about being able to adapt, and when the time comes and you have that dilemma, then so be it.
Oh, I think that's fair enough. Yeah.
Mm. Sorry, that was very demanding there.
Oh, I love it. Go for it. I love that you started with a disagree just for the sake of it, because I'm sure I do that most of the time. So please, by all means, I'm
Okay,
here for turning, as they say.
another good one here. Neto or Bailey? Who in the XI and who on the bench? I know my answer here.
Oh, as in, so you own both of them, but who are you starting and who are
Yep,
you
yep.
benching? Oh, I'd start Bailey because, as I said earlier, if I own Bailey, I'm doing it for Bournemouth. Otherwise, I'm not owning him. Admittedly, Neto has leads, but Wolves don't have an attack and are rubbish. So I'd start Bailey. Although if I'm owning long term, it might go Neto just because I think he's more, he actually has a spot in the team long term. Bailey is a 1 week pick,
Yep.
possibly.
I can see why you have both because in a 5 pack, there's a way to get both. And I like that you have both because you start Bailey and he's playing against Bournemouth. Again, probably the weakest defensive team in the league at this moment in time. And if this project goes wrong, then you have Neto to fall back on. So I would start Bailey over Neto.
I guess that's a way of getting Robertson, isn't it? It's a good thing we're streaming because I would have gone and tried to play with that because
Yep.
the one thing I miss in my team, I think, is Robertson. For anyone who hasn't seen it, if you rewind a bit, we spoke about it earlier. But I don't have Robertson. I have Luis Diaz, Trent, and Salah. So obviously, I have 3 Liverpool. And I think for me, getting Robertson, while I adore him, I very badly want him. It just means not able to have the £8 million mid slot, which I want, or a further downgrade in defence. And both of those things seem worse to me than just going without Robertson.
Yep. Fair. Okay, anything else? Any other questions we haven't seen yet? 15 minutes to the deadline, guys, so get on it.
Are you hanging around for the deadline, or are you going to bed
Yeah,
before
no, no,
then?
no. My energy is back, so let's do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, we're on you. Whatever you fancy, my friend,
What do you
because
mean
it is
deadline?
a.
When you mean the team sheet comes out?
I mean, that would be half an hour later, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
So we'll take your lead,
yeah.
because I don't want to keep you up all night.
No, no worries. Um, okay, what else do we have?
We've had a few sort of Perisic, Doherty, Spurs questions. We did cover it a little bit earlier, but I guess to frame that a bit differently, was it Bakar on Twitter that was saying he might get Perisic and then like bench him for the first two? What are your thoughts on that?
He said that? Why did he say that?
Think so. I know your answer. Then I agree with you for what it's worth, but I guess the thinking is like, especially if you've got a Bailey or a Neto or someone who like could come in anyway and happily start, and you want the Spurs wings backs long term, should you
Oh,
start with them, bench them because they're not going to play, or maybe start them and be fine for them to be benched, and then they're there for you in a few weeks? For me, no, because Chelsea in game week 2, get them in 3 if you must. But do you see a world where you could do that?
give me 1 second.
Are you looking up the tweet?
No, no, no. I'm trying to mess around with my team and see
Are
if
you
this
okay? Fair
works.
enough.
Oh, I see what
Fair enough.
I see what you can do.
Yeah.
I can downgrade Diaz to Perisic and upgrade not Andreas Longstaff to Neto, so I could play Neto and Bailey first
Right.
game.
Yeah, so that would work. And so Neto as well is it Leeds then Fulham? So you could cover the Chelsea match that Spurs have as well, and
Yeah.
then play your Spurs defender in game week 3.
The issue is if you
No,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, go on, please. No, after you.
So let's say I do that, then even the first game week is tough because it's like, oh, do you actually gonna bench Perisic? Because if you bench or start Perisic, I guarantee he comes on at some point, right? So
Yeah.
I get it. That's a smart thinking because, like I said, my plan is Diaz to Perisic in game week 3 anyway. So why do that transfer? But come on, it's Diaz over Neto. Tough one.
I mean, I think the reason you do it is because whatever you value a free transfer at, traditionally 4 points, but in reality, it's worth a little bit less than that because obviously, therefore, you get them anyway, and it's the amount you would gain by making the transfer. So, but even if you value it at a couple of points, I think you get more utility out of, say, having your starting Man City defender, who let's say gets 1.5 clean sheets probabilistically in that time, and then say your midfielder versus having a Perisic who, like you say, if you own him, you're then probably tempted to start him. You get 20 minutes at the end where he comes on and gets booked, and you've put yourself quite a bit behind. I think also to see how it falls, right? Let's see if Sessegnon goes and locks down a space or if Doherty looks like an option. I think a couple of weeks is smart there.
Yeah, but 20 minutes of Perisic is like Neymar at his best, you know? That's
So Perisic in Serie A last season, off the top of my head, got 0.44 XGI, so non-pen XG plus XA. Doherty, in a very small sample size, to be fair, for Spurs last year, also got 0.44. And Doherty's was heavier in goals, whereas Perisic's was heavier in assists.
yeah, but
So if they both repeated that, and Serie A, Farmers League, right? Premier League much harder. In theory, Doherty matches him.
I'll let you go there, Seb. I'll let you go.
It's because like that's the end of the stream. Thanks.
I'm such a big Perisic fanboy. I just
Yeah.
think I think he's gonna be excellent. But anyways, Diaz or Walker? Diaz more safe for sure. Walker for the vibes. Also, Walker is not as attacking as he seems, just because he's the traditional right back. He's more of a right center back. Regardless, Walker has the potential to be rotated. Yeah, it's a 1 million save, but at what cost? Diaz can potentially be downgraded to pretty much any other defender that's starting to light up. So, yeah, I think I would go Diaz over Walker, but Seb has Walker.
I agree with your reasoning, but I have Walker. But I explained, that's maybe a 2 or 3 week pick, so I'm satisfied for that in that time.
Yep, fair.
You're right, mate. What's above you?
No, I just turned the AC off.
Oh, okay. Thought we were going to get something falling on you. That'd be an exciting stream.
Hey.
I've got a Mendy versus De Gea question here. So I guess goalkeepers, we've not really covered them. I spoke about Edison earlier, but we've got all these cheap goalkeepers in Melier, Sanchez, and David Rao. We've obviously got the Leicester 4.0s there, although Leicester are terrible. Then there's the premiums in your Allisons, your Edisons, maybe Luis could be up there. Ramsdale kind of in the middle. Mendy who no one's really gone with, it seems. What's your thoughts there? We can see what goalkeeper you've got, but what are you thinking across the board?
Sorry, what was the question? I was trying to set up
Oh,
something.
sorry. So goalkeepers. We've obviously got the
Goalkeepers.
premiums.
Okay.
So your Edison, your Allisons, then there's like Ramsdales and whatnot, and then the more budget ones, and then the Leicester double 4.0s. What's your thinking there? We can see what you've got on your team, but
Yep.
what's your thinking going forward over the season with them?
I don't view them over going the season with them. I view it going till the first wild card. So that wild card window is somewhat important for pre-planning, and I see myself wild carding anywhere between possibly even 5 or something like 9. 9 is like the standard I think this season. However, if I look at the first 7 or 8 game weeks, I just reckon that Ramsdale has a good chance of getting many clean sheets. I don't fancy Sanchez and who's the other guy? Raya as highly as Ramsdale. This is a personal opinion here. There's interest in rotating Ward and Sanchez, and getting Ward and Iverson as a backup, and freeing up funds. But what do you actually do with your funds? I don't really know. So I think Ederson is okay. He's safe, but I think you can do more with that point 0.5 elsewhere. So for me, I like that 5-0 bracket, and from there I like Ramsdale the most. How about yourself?
I have obviously Sanchez there, which I like. I've explained I like my cheap keepers, although the double Leicester maybe is a bit much for me. And I have point 0.5 in the bank. So I'd arguably just be putting 1 million in the bank or doing Walker to Diaz, but then that maybe blocks off some other things for me. And I think, I do think Sanchez over the, say, first 6 or 8 weeks before our wild card will outscore Leicester. So I'd rather have that. I really like the idea of Edison. I really like an Edison team, but I've already got my triple city. I'm happy to have, say, Walker a little bit cheaper.
Yep.
But I could see myself wildcarding into that. So traditionally, we might wildcard into the cheaper, the best cheap goalkeeper. But I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not saying I will, but I wouldn't be surprised if when I wildcard in a few weeks' time, I actually end up with Edison just for that nailed on City, 20 clean sheets, give or take, whatever it'll be over the season. Somewhere between 15 and 25, I guess. I'll take that. Thank you very much.
No, fair, fair, fair. Okay.
Cash, Dean, or Zinchenko? So is that a 5.0 defender bracket there? What's your take on that?
Cash, Dean, or Zinchenko? Cash, Dean, or Zinchenko? I think I'd go Dean for the first 3 fixtures, first 4 fixtures. But if you're going to go a little longer, like 7 or 8, I'd go Zinchenko. How about yourself?
Reasonable. What's your thinking on Zinchenko? Do you think he's when Tierney's
No, no. So
back fit? Do you think he's left back? Do you think he's midfield?
I think he's left back. He came to City as a central midfielder, from my brief understanding, and Arteta is the one that pushed him out to the left kind of wing back role. One thing about Arsenal is that their wing backs play. Who's the guy on the right? White and Zinchenko will play as inverted wing backs, not like those guys who bomb. They will make overlapping runs, but they're inverted wing backs. And the reason is Zaka is going to push up, and he's going to fill in that space where Zaka is. I mean, he did some pretty decent, diagonal passes to Saka as well, but I don't think he's going to be as attacking as you might reckon, just because he's the left wing back. Because Tierney's the type of player that's going to make those runs and be on much more crosses, but you'll see the most pattern of play where Zinchenko sort of fills in the gap where Zaka is pushing up. So, I think it's a wait and watch. He might become very potentially explosive, but I'm not so keen on him right now.
That's fair. I think in preseason, I think they may have started 3 at the back. I think, but they have a couple of injuries, a couple of players not available in the defense. I think 4-3-3 or your 4-2-3-1 with an 8 pushed up to 10, whatever, the Odegaard is probably Arteta's preference. There may be people who know Arsenal better than me, so fair enough. In that shape, a bit like City, and hey, Arteta worked under Pep for a while. I wonder if with your Martinelli on the left, or even Smith Rowe on the left, both of them obviously relatively direct. Smith Rowe more of a 10, of course, but Martinelli in their past has been there for the running. I wonder how that works with the left back, with Tierney, who, like you say, will go on the outside, whereas Zinchenko, who for the Ukraine plays, progressive 8, even number 10, maybe comes inside a bit more. Do you think it might depend on how the team shapes up elsewhere? Or do you think Arteta's just going to go with the player who he thinks is performing best in isolation?
I think a little bit of both, but most likely whoever's playing the best. And I think that's with every team, right? We just have to kind of see how they start before they kind of find their place and find their philosophy, find their sort of starting 11. So yeah, I think Arteta is a very philosophy type of coach, which is why Arsenal might have struggled initially for the last 2 years or 3 years with Arteta, but now they're finding their place, and it actually makes them more frightening, right? Because they have a way of playing, and it's the Arteta way. So yeah. And I'm getting a lot of slack for picking Dean, and yeah, I agree. I would never pick that troll, but if you're, betting on the first 3 or 4 game weeks, then I guess he's a decent pick.
Fair, fair. And we've had a few people in the chat again mention Spurs. I know you covered it earlier, but why don't you talk to us about no Son, no Spurs at all? In fact,
Yeah, 4 minutes to the deadline. I was just tinkering with my team one
oh,
last time.
have you
um,
changed anything?
no, I think I'm gonna roll with this. My team is on the left, and Seb's team's on the right. This is what I've been on for a while, and let's do it. Yeah, Son. I just everybody knows me as Sonaldo. I'm Son's probably biggest fan, and I would love to have him in my team, but very difficult to fit him. If I do get Son, I have to ignore Kane and Holland for a long time, basically, because I just don't see a way of me going from Son to Kane or Son to Holland. And by game week 2, we're gonna want to captain a City player, and who's gonna be the most popular guy? Holland, and I'm gonna be afraid of not owning him. And also, I don't mind the Son to KDB move, but KDB didn't look so sharp in Community Shield, so just game planning right now, and I'll stick with Holland and see how it goes. But maybe I'll wildcard him in game week 8 when Spurs fixtures are really good.
Fair, fair. Could you see that becoming 3 premiums,
Yeah, I think
or
so.
do you think that's going to replace? You think so?
I think you can replace Salah even because I know I'm going crazy here, but Salah has difficult fixtures from I think 9 to 11 or 8 to 11 or something like that, and you could take that risk, but I wouldn't take that risk. So I think you could 3 him during that period where Spurs have 4 really good fixtures from then.
Interesting. So I think in theory, I'm against the freemium. Doesn't mean I wouldn't do it, like you say, if it comes out. I'll stick it into some of the models and see how it comes out. But if it comes out as the best solution, fair. But for me, basically, other than Salah, all the expensive players require the captaincy to really deliver value. And if you're rotating the captaincy between 3 players, you dilute that a lot more. I think you're better off having 2, focusing the captaincy on 2 players. And we know Salah's going to be a captain a lot, and then spending the money elsewhere on your team. Although at the end of last season, we obviously saw Son being a better pick than Salah, although Salah's underlyings were still very good. I think myself, I had Salah, Son, definitely. I don't think I had another expensive one, so I guess I still had 2. But I could see it working if Son's going to keep up a silly rate of points that mean you don't need to captain him for him to become, useful for the team. But I don't know. I think I'd be more likely to do, say, the Haaland and Kane hokey cokey or something like that.
Yep, agree.
So with like a minute to go or whatever it is, have you made any changes to your team?
2 minutes to go. Have you?
I'm just doing that Walker, Gabriel, Bailey. I think I'm starting Bailey. So it's do I start Walker or Gabriel? Help me out, chat, if you hear this before the deadline. Do I start Walker, or who has West Ham away, or do I start Gabriel, who has Crystal Palace away?
Wow, that's a tough one.
I think I'm so close. Like EV wise, there's nothing in it. I genuinely am starting to think like, well, I'm going to watch the match tonight, and do I want to be sat there going, don't concede?
1 minute. Dr. Malcolm says, help me out, bro. Okay, I got you. What is it? Trippier versus Diaz versus Walker. Come on, Seb. Trippier versus
Diaz. I mean, in isolation, that's Diaz by a mile.
Yeah, Diaz.
But obviously, you might want that million for Walker. Yeah, I chose to have the million.
No idea what his team is, but Diaz.
Yeah, fair. Okay, so I've got one Walker. Is that start or bench? I've realized I asked I've forgotten the question. So which one do I bench is the question, Walker or Gabriel? Which one do I bench?
Which one do I bench, Walker or Gabriel? Yeah. That's you, right?
yeah, that's me. I completely forgot which way around I asked the question.
What'd
now
you do?
I'm getting lots of responses.
You have like 30 seconds. You have 10 seconds.
Do I? Oh, no.
Seb, just do it. It's a 50.
What do I have? I think... Okay, well, it's on Gabriel, so I guess that's staying because...
So Gabriel?
Yeah, I'm starting Gabriel. I'm benching Walker.
Oh, God.
Imagine if Walker scores like a 40-yard volley. He doesn't get forward, but what happens is KDB swings the ball into the box. It's cleared by a massive West Ham head. It falls to Walker. He touches it off his left. Remember when in the City documentary, he said how Pep had, taught him to use his left to control the ball. So he does that. He takes it down. On the half volley, he strikes it and he scores his once in a decade goal like Vincent Kompany did. And I look very stupid.
Hey, you
What do you
should
think?
commentate. That was really good.
Yeah, only if that one specific thing happens, though, of course. Like, anything else, nonsense. Deadline has passed, apparently. Deadline has passed. So
Wow.
my team is locked in. There was one change with what's on the screen. I'm starting Gabriel and I'm benching Walker because flipping coins. What about you? Have you changed anything?
Nope. I'm rolling with it.
Oh,
Here we go.
so good.
No Perisic. Oh, guarantee he
Oh,
starts
buddy.
now. Mm.
Maybe. But like, that's it. If he starts, all you do is you wait for Chelsea. And if he starts Chelsea as well, you've got some lovely information there. And you get him in for game week 3 when he probably gets benched. But there's no problem with that. Like we were saying,
Yeah.
I think this was before we went live. Like, worst case scenario, Perisic scores, keeps a clean sheet. He goes and gets 15 odd points. But you've got, say, Diaz or whoever in the team instead. They probably keep a clean sheet. I've just benched Walker, so good. But realistically, that might be 10 points at most, maybe 9, maybe 8 between the two players. That's nothing massive. Of course, you'd rather have those points, but it's nothing terrible. And I think the risk of Perisic not playing, what it's probably like 30% I'd maybe have in my head that he starts. I think that's a reasonable probabilistic take to go with. And if you've got it wrong, you can fix it in 2 game weeks.
I agree. I agree for you comforting me here. Appreciate it. And also,
That's all right.
Seb, I need to give a shout out to Violet Citizen who says, that was so bad. Violet Citizen, who says, Andy, if Sonny Halls, am I allowed to gloat? You're absolutely allowed to gloat. I'll be as happy as you are, and you can, shoot me a DM and say, I told you so, and I'll take it on the chin.
Yeah, do it. I will, if at this moment, if I'm allowed, I will plug that on the Scoutcast, myself, Andy, and Joe are doing a community team this year. It's effectively just Twitter polls and whatnot, but we spent the last couple of days letting the community pick it. It's not a bad team at all. It's as you would expect. It's relatively standard. I will quickly run through it. It's pinned on my profile if anyone's interested. Andy and Joe retweeted it, of course, as well, I think. So don't have to go to my Twitter if you don't want to. The team is Ward in goal with Everson on the bench. So the community went for Leicester double up there. Trent Alexander-Arnold, Robertson, James, and Cancelo. Salah captain, Saka and Martinelli, and Leon Bailey starts. Jesus and Haaland vice captain, and then a cheap bench of Nico, Andreas, and Greenwood. Now, obviously, lots of similar players to everyone else, but I quite fancy that team. It's obviously gone for money in the starting 11 and a cheap bench, and even Bailey starting there. So I'd say it's one downfall will be if, say, like Bailey doesn't start, or if there's some defensive issues. We don't really have anywhere to run away to. But I just sent it over to you on Twitter, Snaldo. What's your take on that? How do you think the community have done?
Yeah, I have no idea what you said, so I'm gonna put the team up. And then
So this is the community team that I think it was Andy's idea, but the Scoutcast, we put a bunch of polls out. We picked a team based on that. And we'll keep running it throughout the season like that as well. We'll put polls out. It'll be me or Andy or someone who puts the polls up on Twitter. And we will pick a team all year based on what the community want to do. There's a league as well, which you can go join. That's on Twitter. I've sent you the team in DMs. So let me know what you think. I like it, but I think it's a little inflexible. What about you?
I got it up here for the viewers. So,
oh, amazing! Thank you.
By the way, guys, I think we hit like over 1,000 viewers at the same time. So thank you so much for joining us at this late time. I don't know what time it is in London, or in the UK, but at this late time,
it's already Sunday for you.
Yeah, and we really appreciate it. I really am enjoying this stream with you, Seb, even though I'm a little out of it. And hopefully we have more to do. I really enjoyed the first Scoutcast. I thought you guys were fantastic, and I'll be tuning in pretty much every week, listening to you boys, and hopefully we can do sort of a BQ and Scoutcast collab at some point in the season, which would be super cool.
That'd be lovely. That'd be lovely, especially seeing as you've definitely usurped us. I think.
Please. Yeah.
I don't know if your video get more views, but you definitely get more love.
Yeah,
so we're gonna have to do that collab just so we can steal some of your glory. I think.
No, I'm not about that. I really don't. I could care less, seriously, and I really just want everyone on FS Scout to do well. So Guys, please do give Scoutcast a listen when you can. And you guys are on every Tuesday, correct?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, indeed.
awesome.
And you are, when are you on? When are Burning Questions on with you and Praz?
We're on Wednesday, unfortunately, around lunchtime in the UK. So very early,
Oh, that's
but that's like
perfect.
9 p.m. over here. So we have
Oh,
to,
that's perfect. Perfect
it's
thing to do during
perfect.
lunch. And
Yeah.
of course, you can watch it again on YouTube, can't you? And any of the podcasts. So this is the most like markety for Scout I've ever been.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
feel
yeah,
filthy.
yeah.
But it's worth it. Burning Questions genuinely is brilliant. I
Appreciate it.
don't get time to listen and watch much during the week, if I'm honest, unfortunately.
Yeah,
But it is one of the ones I go to. So please keep
appreciate it.
going and
Yeah.
keep it up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Appreciate it a lot. And I think when we first started, Seb asked me to come on Scoutcast, and I was kind of blushing, and sort of that was a big moment for me. I remember that, and I really enjoyed that talk with you and Joe. So hopefully we can collab this year. It would be interesting though. Like, how do you get 5 people to stream? Is that even possible?
I mean, how do you get 5 people to stream and me to shut up is the real question, isn't it? Yeah, you probably just mute me and then it'd be fine. I don't know. It'd be interesting. I mean, I won't mention it on here, but I have an idea for like I'd quite like to do a big old collabby thing with some scout things at some point, so we can chat about that afterwards. But I have an idea for how you could do that. But that's for another time. So yeah, what do you make of this community team we have on the screen then?
Okay. It's super template.
Oh yeah, well the community picked it.
I think it's a great team. It looks fantastic. I'll leave it at that.
So yeah, it looks fantastic, guys. Yeah, so good. What I like is that it's template, of course it is. But what I kind of like is that we didn't just do like pick one player then another. We tried to have some strategy. So we picked a formation. We sort of were aware that if we picked X, we couldn't pick Y, things like that. It very much has gone with let's get the money in the 11 and even not in the goalkeepers, right? Not even in Bailey. It's let's have an 8 million midfielder in Saka and Robertson, which is something I wasn't able to do in my own team. And therefore, let's save on the bench, let's save on the goalkeepers and worry about Leon Bailey being benched another time, which isn't the approach I've taken personally, but I could see it doing well. On its day, this is one of the best teams you could pick, I think, if everyone starts and everyone plays well.
Oh, I love it. I really like the Saka Martinelli. Actually, you know what? This was Process team.
Is it Process team?
This was Process team before he changed to 5 in the back, but he
Oh,
didn't have Ward. I think he had Ramsdale as well. So
okay.
very interesting. Yeah, I like Greenwood.
Cool.
I think Greenwood is the safest in terms of minutes for a forward. But you're picking at whatever the term is, right? So
Yeah. Okay, I need to be back in 1 second, but why
Yep.
don't you give us a little who's going to win the league and who's going to get relegated?
Really, just
Go
just
for
like
it.
that, really tough, huh?
Go for it. Yeah, I assume it's all you've been thinking about all summer, so you'll have that ready to go, right?
Guys in the chat, if you have questions, please come up because we've run out of content. So I'd like to interact. Yeah. So who do you guys think will kind of win the league? Never done a solo stream. It's very awkward. Personally, obviously, it's between City and Liverpool. I think Liverpool takes it this season. I think City's going to focus on winning the Champions League, so maybe that could be a reason why. But I don't, both can win. And no, it's not a new background, Ryan. It's actually just another curtain. But I promised our BQ viewers that I'd have a different background setup. So I'm working on trying to make it super cool. I have some LED lights possibly. I'm not really sure, but yep. Liverpool, Man City. Yep. Top two. Anybody think Spurs has a chance? Just saw someone tweet their team and looks better than mine. I want to do it over. Do not think that way, you penguin. Your team looks fantastic, and everybody's team looks better every week. So just stick to your guts. I went Aronson at FPL night. I love it. He was in my team firmly when I had Perisic, but Perisic news deterred me away. Went to Diaz, and I had to drop Aronson because I couldn't afford it. Arsenal could get top 4. Yeah, certainly.
If you said Leeds to go down, we're done, I'm afraid.
Leeds should possibly go down. No, I don't think so. We'll see. Actually, I was looking at the table, and it was really hard to pick and choose sort of who's going to get relegated. I think Bournemouth probably gets relegated, but We'll see.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's always harsh saying who you think will get relegated because there'll be a fan in the chat and they'll A, know more than you, and B, obviously, of course, they don't want their team to get relegated. So please take that with this in mind. But I think Bournemouth are gone. They know that themselves, right? They've not invested. I think they may even, of course, they want to stay up, but they may be going for the classic Norwich come up, go down, come back up with a much stronger squad and a much healthier bank balance and give it a go a second time. So I think Bournemouth are gone. I think Everton are in trouble. I do not think Frank Lampard is any better than average. I
Yep.
don't think their transfer business has been good. They've got injuries. I mean, they've lost Richarlison. Calvert-Lewin's out. McNeil is not £20 million, if I'm honest. I don't think. I'd love him to prove me wrong, but he hasn't looked it for a while. And the rest, Tarkowski's a good signing, but the rest of the team is just, I mean, they've just signed two players that got relegated. Now, of course, it's not just those two players' fault, but that says enough, I think. And then for the third spot, I could see Brentford struggling more, but that's only because of
Oh,
the silly
interesting.
second season syndrome thing. That like that's just vibes, right? There's no real logic there. So let me go maybe with Fulham, although I fancy them maybe to stay up for once. Finally, I'm just struggling not to say Leeds. So yeah, Bournemouth, Everton, and another, and then the title is City, isn't it?
Nice. I actually said Liverpool, but yeah, I could see City.
Oh,
It's very
yeah,
close.
no, what? Okay, yeah, what makes you say Liverpool?
Vibes, but it could be
Vibes.
City. Yeah, it could be City. Who knows? Honestly, who knows?
Fair.
But all right, quick fire questions, Seb, and has to be quick. So here we go. Here we go. Where do we start? Okay, Ignatius Roberto says, Andy, will you stay up to watch the great question to start with? Possibly, but it is very late. Barnesy says, how do you think Newcastle will do? For me, top 8. You?
Top nine. I know that sounds stupid, but I was just adding up the teams in my head. Top nine.
Okay, what else do we got? Dawn says, I have Sterling. Am I screwed? No, you're not screwed.
Oh, Sterling could go fine.
Yeah.
Like, budget isn't as spread as other people, but Sterling could be brilliant.
Bernardo, Andy, you should get some Sunny related background. Yes, I will. Damien, wildcard is going to have a huge effect on first half of the season. Yeah. Okay, what else do we got? Moksui, love you too, man. I'm really bad at picking out these questions.
Your favorite violent or violet citizen, as they prefer,
What do you say?
says Justin or Castagna.
What a difficult question. Is Justin ready to go? Is he fit?
I actually have no idea.
I have
He's
no
been injured
idea.
a lot,
Yeah.
so I'm going to assume he was injured at some point, but let's say he's fit.
If he's fit, yeah, Justin for sure, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's quick fire, isn't it? So yeah, Justin. But Castagna probably has better attacking threat. Justin can cover more positions.
Okay, let me get you a question, Seb. I want to find a difficult one for you. Do you see any questions? Like I can't pick these questions.
Let's go for it. Let me have a little scroll. Will Brighton be as defensively good now after all these players missing? That's a good question, right?
Yeah,
They've
great
lost
question.
Cucurella. Although they were good before Cucurella arrived, he only arrived 11 months ago. It's a hell of a profit from 11 months of play. Lost Dan Burn to Newcastle, although I don't know if he was necessarily first choice anymore. Also, I will say Potter is a systems manager, and it's not like any of their players are Van Dijk with respect to their players. So yes, I think they'll probably be fine because it's the system that keeps their clean sheets, and of course, a minimum level of player, not individual brilliance.
So smart, Seb. So smart.
What about you? What do you think?
Sorry. What was the question? I'm skipping to
I'll
the next one. Yeah.
I'll flip the question for you. What
Okay.
will Brighton's attack be like? We know they're XG darlings. What do you think?
I think I would trust in Potter, no matter what. I think he can make non-Basuma, non-Cucurella team pretty good, if not as good. I just believe in the coach more than anything. So, yeah, I think their attack will be pretty decent. I think they're just going to be like the same as last season. Just a good team. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair. A question from good old Chris James here. which are the biggest likely transfers in the next few weeks. Now, one
Ooh,
thing bearing in mind here is we've all just locked our game week 1 teams. The transfer window doesn't close until just after game week 5, I think. So a lot could change. What do you think is going to change stuff?
I think
I'll throw it out
yeah,
there and say Man United might actually sign a midfielder.
yeah, yeah. You know the whole Man United situation. Great thing to bring up right here is oh man, it is getting late. Who are they trying to sign from Barcelona?
They were trying to sign De Jong,
Okay, yeah,
but
sorry.
for whatever
Can't
reason,
believe
whether
I
it be
forgot that.
wages or whatever, it doesn't look like happening.
Yeah, so you know why I think United stalled in terms of transfers for a while is because the first signing they needed to make was De Jong. Because once you get De Jong, it's then you can decide who to partner with him and sort of that's how important he is for the system for Ten Hag to work. And it was very unfortunate that they couldn't sign him. Maybe they signed him, but they couldn't sign him because it would have had a ripple effect, I think, for United to go on to sign other signings because you first identify the partner for De Jong and then you kind of see what other parts you need. I think I broke this down in detail at one point, but I can't remember what the ripple effect actually was, the domino effect or whatever you call it. So yeah, I think that's why their transfer windows was quite quiet this time around.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think we've seen in the past that Man United maybe, well, we know, they don't quite have the same backroom setup as some other clubs. They're working on it, but they often maybe seem to get wrapped up in that one transfer. That's what they put their resources into, and they can't have a couple of deals on the go at the same time. Or if they miss out on that transfer, or it takes all summer like Sancho, they maybe can't then move on to the next thing. And I think not only is that the case with De Jong, but I think you're alluding to as well. If they get De Jong through the door, they're then more attractive to other people and can open up the team, right?
Yep, yep.
Yeah, that's fair. Where will to keep with the Man United theme? Where will Ronaldo go? Do you think? I think he might go to Everton or Chelsea, maybe, or maybe the Bundesliga. Everton. I mean, if he goes to, I'd like to see him at Everton. That'd be jokes, but I don't think he will. I think he'd bankrupt them.
Yeah, I don't think he goes anywhere, right? There's nowhere to go.
That's the thing. I mean, all the clubs that would take him either don't need him or he wouldn't want to go to. So, like, MLS maybe. And then all the clubs that he would want to go to, again, don't need him or can't afford him. It seems like he's at the best place for him.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I was just going to say, do you think that affects like FPL, obviously, with Martial, or does he become an option?
No, it makes Martial a difficult option to go to because it's hard to drop Cristiano, right? He's very commanding in terms of presence and still like the a pure number 9 in many ways. So, last season he was great. I think he continues to be pretty decent for United. So it's very difficult. I think you're going to get rotated if you have Martial.
Yeah, that's fair. I know a few people on Twitter are hot on him, and the price is decent, but a bit like me avoiding Foden. Whereas, I definitely want him, and maybe some of the Spurs wing backs as well. I think we have time. You can be patient. If Martial is going to be an option, Ronaldo, goes off on strike or something, and Man United look good going forward, not just in preseason. You have time, and he's cheap. You can get him. I think a trap that some people, and absolutely myself, I include myself in this, often fall into is there's a phrase in trading markets, which is you can be right or you can make money. And what that means is you can have a belief and you can argue for it all day and you can keep wanting it to happen, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen. Or you can change your bias and you can make money. And in FPL, I think that applies to you can love Martial, you can talk about him all day, you can think he's a great pick. That's not going to make him a great pick. Just wait for him to become a good pick. And
Yeah.
until then, go with the other options.
So I'm gonna move to a different topic, Seb, because Hydra asked a good question. Where do you think Cornet and Skamaka fit with the Hammers? And remember, Seb, you earlier in the stream you asked me what team are we sleeping on? What team you think is gonna sort of like pop out of nowhere? I think it might be West Ham, because before the Skamaka, I'm butchering it here. Before that trade, um, West Ham needed a couple signings. There were just a few signings short because of the fact that they're going to be playing Thursday, Sunday with the I think Conference League this year. So they'll need those squad players to really have not squad but just overall team to really have some backup. Antonio made of glass, this and that, right? So this is a big signing for them. Apparently, he's done really well for in the Serie A. So we'll see. I think we might be sleeping on West Ham. They might come out really hot after the initial first difficult few games.
Yeah, I mean that's a good shout. That would feel a lot like our season again, wouldn't it? I know we all had Ben Rama, but for a couple of years or 18 months now under David Moyes, as we like to call him, they have been maybe sleepers and sneaking into that top six for sure. I think the Antonio Scamacca thing's interesting. I wonder if the latter does eventually become first choice, both because of fitness, but also maybe works better with if you're. They wanted Kostic at one point, didn't they, for left wing back?
Hmm.
So I said I would imagine there's the idea there is to not rely on. I know Cresswell started playing left centre back instead, but if you're playing the three at the back, really to actually get some crosses in from that left. Cornet, off the top of my head, is maybe more of a progressor at feet than with the ball himself, but it's certainly exciting if he does indeed come in. And I would expect that combination to work. I think overall, I probably have a little bit of a blind spot for West Ham sometimes because I look at their team and I'm never that excited by it. And then they perform really well. They've got some really nice players. And yet I often leave them out of my thinking.
Yeah, no, I think we might be sleeping on them. Like Cornet is the perfect backup signing for them, right? He could start at times. He could also come off the bench at times, and good rotation player with the potential to become a legitimate starter in the Premier League for West Ham. Plus, we forget that their midfield combination is who Rice plus Suchet. That's like one of the premium midfield combinations in the league, right? Like you have two very highly coveted players that I rate very highly. So that's a good team. That's a really really good team. I was worried about their rotation, but now with these squad players coming in, yeah, I think they'll come into the fold. And Bowen at 8.5 shouldn't be ignored. We'll see. We'll see how he does initially.
Of course. Yeah. You speak of sleepers and we're talking about what player could come in and change things. We didn't mention Bowen. I feel like at 8.5, he's just zero point 0.5 outside of, I've spoken about that 8 million midfielder bracket that I like.
Yeah.
He's obviously 0.5 more and therefore isn't quite in that thinking for me because it's a harder transfer to make. But yeah, there's going to be a run of fixtures where you want him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
Shout out GW1, another Scout affiliate, and also West Ham are massive according to GW1.
Well. How long do we have till team news? Should we stick around for team
Yeah,
news and
that's
then
what I was thinking, and then we
yeah,
can end it.
lovely. A couple of minutes, is
Yeah,
it?
like
I
8 minutes.
think. Okay, cool. What do we think we're going to see any surprises? I've seen the chat going Martinelli bench, Jesus is
Oh
ill.
no, don't do that.
I mean,
Do not
none
do
of that
that.
is going to be based on real information. And you know what? If Jesus is ill, the highest owned ever player I think in FPL, it just doesn't matter, does it? Everyone's in the same boat, and we all get Neto off the bench. Or
No,
you know
it
what?
matters,
You know what would
Seb.
be
You
funny?
have
I
a
end up playing
bench.
Walker and Gabriel. Yeah, but then I play Walker and Gabriel anyway, and it was all for nothing.
Yeah, but I play Andreas against Liverpool. I'm not happy about that.
Oh, was he your first sub?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I take it back. Yeah, no, okay, it matters to you.
Yeah, because I'm not gonna put Archer or Longstaff over him. Maybe Longstaff, but
I put Andreas third.
really? Oh,
See,
because
because
you have a decent bench, right?
what? So I've got Archer is my second. My thinking on Archer is he's never going to start, but with 5 subs, with Gerard fancying him, with good fixtures, and the fact that the front two, if they do indeed play a front two, are Ings and Watkins, one of which spends time injured and needs rests. I think Archer gets half an hour every other week.
Yeah, that's why I
And
went for
you know,
him.
if that's against Bournemouth, fine with me.
Yeah, he's got that potential. I'd rather take.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd rather have half an hour of Archer than 90 minutes of Andreas against Liverpool.
yeah, agree. Oh, really? Damn.
Yeah.
I mean, crap.
I like how you're definitely getting tired now. You're like, you agree. No, wait, I don't. You're talking nonsense.
Yeah, someone said, Sonaldo, are you okay? It's really, really late here. I'm probably a little out of it, so apologies, guys.
He's for anyone who was around earlier, this was me last night going, shall we do a deadline stream? Purely for selfish reasons, because I wanted to distract myself from last minute tinkering. And Sonaldo very, very kindly said yes. And then we realized it would be about 2 a.m. Is it there your time now?
It's like almost 3 now. Yeah.
Almost, yeah. So frankly, he's a hero. I'm a terrible, terrible person. And the fact that we've done this for nearly an hour, and I think now is frankly remarkable. We will stick around for team news, and then we will wish you well, I think.
Yeah, but I love it. I love streaming. It's such an honor to be able to do this, and Very, very lucky and blessed to be in this situation. So 3 a.m. stream, so be it.
Ah, you deserve it, buddy. We love listening to you.
No. I got a good one here because someone says the says it's still loading, so it looks like a sort of a newcomer to FPL, and we want to explain that usually after the deadline, about 30, 40 minutes of game is updating because you have millions of users at the same time inputting. So it is normal. Don't worry. It's going to kind of open up, I guess, in the next 10, 15, 20
Yeah.
minutes.
I mean, with it being the first game week, it might be a little bit longer. It might be an hour or so, because I guess there's an awful lot of stuff to process, and I would imagine on their end, there's maybe some stability stuff to look at. Also, there's going to be a lot of people checking in.
Ooh, by the way,
Those servers. Oh yeah.
the reason why Seb knows this is, am I allowed to say this, Seb? What your
Oh yeah. Yeah, go for it.
Seb's real job is kind of game engineering, right? Or
Oh, okay. So game designer. So the game
designer? Okay.
engineers are the smart people. The programmers are the smart people, and I just sit there and throw bad ideas at them.
Awesome.
But yeah, no, I'm a game designer for a football game for Football Manager.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's good fun. It's a fortunate position to be in. It's like every job, but yeah, no, it's good. It's nice to be able to do, because obviously I'm big into FPL, if you couldn't have guessed. It's nice. I do some leads research as well for Foot Manager, so it's nice to have something that is a passion of mine in my spare time bleed into my professional life in such a massive way, and just get to live and absorb that.
I love how Steve Wheeler just said scenes when Palace beat Arsenal 1-0 and the Arsenal boys blank because uh, we're so used to this, Seb. Like this happens all the time.
It's going to happen. That's the thing with the summer, isn't it? Whether you're into Grass FC or a bit more analytics FC like me, whether you've got your models, that's all great. And then the first game kicks off, and we remember that football is a game of variance and massive luck.
Yeah.
And Palace beat Arsenal 1-0. Jesus is injured. Martinelli gets sent off, and we all look very, very stupid, and we wasted our summers.
Yeah, like 2 months of planning. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, if Jesus starts to blank the first 3, 4 games, disaster there.
Well, there you go then. Just while waiting for lineups, what do you do? Jesus, say he is terrible tonight. I don't know, misses a penalty or something, and then doesn't start. 3 weeks of basically worst possible outcomes. What are you doing?
I mean, after 3 weeks, you see who's the. So here's a key point. I think I'm going to try this season, Seb. Is I'm really going to try to catch a lot of price rises early on, and this means using different sites to check who might rise tonight, who might not rise, who might drop, and you want to be focused on that initially because I realize that team value is not the most important thing, but it certainly helps you later down the season. And with so much uncertainty after the World Cup, even though we have a wild card, you want as much money as possible. We know little to nothing right now, and so don't be so differential and don't try to like chase points right now. Chase those price catches, chase those sort of guys you think might do well, or the template rising players, and build your squad initially by following the crowd, and then later you can sort of use that value if you know what I'm saying. So yeah,
I think that's fair. I think so. Again, anyone from Analytics FC watching might hate me for this. I do chase value a little bit. I know you probably shouldn't. I've curbed that a bit in the past. I really used to. I think for me, it's one of those. If everything else is equal, an early transfer is fine. We really focus on the whole. What if a player gets injured towards the end of the week? Sure, it can happen, but it doesn't happen that often. So I'm down for making an early transfer. If it is the transfer you wanted to make and you need to make it to say get prices to align, I am down for that. But I wouldn't say make a transfer just for value. You do need another reason, and then take value into your consideration.
yeah. I think I worded that really badly, but yeah. Thanks for saving me there. Nuclear Adams,
Not at
shout
all.
out Nuclear Adams. He's always part of our streams. I think he's part of Scoutcast sometimes as well, but. I always appreciate your work, Nuclear Adams. He says, Seb, did you ever get inspiration from FPL for your game design? Great question.
Interesting. That's probably a better question for like the UI designers than me. So I work on the game side, which is
Okay.
like the features and the mechanics in there. Of course, it all melds into one. But we do have specific UI UX designers who are some very, very talented people. And so something like FPL, obviously the mechanics are a little different to our game, but it's probably the UI which would maybe bleed into it a bit more.
Mm.
I'd love to be arrogant and say it's the other way around because Football Manager's been around for a long time, a lot longer than I've worked there. And I know a few things have been influenced by it in the real world. So maybe the other way around, but I would imagine so. Things like FPL, its strength is it's simple, right? It's accessible and it's simple. That's the strength. So things like, things we don't even think of, things are the way the way you select your team, where buttons are on the screen, what happens when you press a certain button needs to be intuitive to people who love football and, have never ever used football or played football in the past. So I suspect there's lots of UI influences there, especially with how you interact with it on that level.
Oh, I didn't know you're a football manager. Wow. Amazing.
Yeah. We have team news.
Okay, let's see it, please. Jesus,
So
Martinelli.
I'll give you Arsenal because that's what we care about.
Yep.
Ramsdale starts in goal. Ben White, Saliba, Gabriel, and Zinchenko. Now that could be 3 at the back, it could be 4 at the back. Bukayo Saka starts, Partey starts, Xhaka starts, Martin Odegaard starts, the new captain, Martinelli starts, and Gabriel Jesus does indeed start.
Okay, so very predictable.
Yeah. So I would say that probably is 4-3-3. Saka and Martinelli wide of Jesus,
Yep.
Ben White right back, Zinchenko left back. But it could be 3 at the back with White, Saliba, and Gabriel as the 3 centre backs. We'll have to wait and see.
Wow, how amazing! Not Pep, Seb, or Pep, same thing. Premier League is here.
I know. Well, I think on that note, we should wrap it up. While we're all still feeling positive, while we all think we're going to finish number 1, despite all having the same team, I think we should leave it there. You are the host, so I will hand over to you. And thank you so much for hosting beautifully this evening.
No, I appreciate it. It was a pleasure, and we definitely need to do more of these, Seb. So I'll talk to you soon. Thank you guys for joining us. Really appreciate it, and good luck. Don't stress. It's game week 1. If you're 3 million ranking, it does not matter. It's a long season to go, so have fun, enjoy football. Don't think about your points, and we'll see you again soon.
We play this to escape from the silly real world. If FPL becomes something that isn't fun, bin it off. It's a game. No one